What is up, guys? Today we are going to be doing some super sick mods to the Z. We're going to be building a custom front lip. So ever since I've done the NA2T, I've been a little bit concerned about the radiator not getting enough airflow when I'm driving. So you can see here's the intercooler, and it is pretty big and it fits right where the radiator goes, and basically I'm concerned about it just shoving air downwards instead of letting air pass through it. So what I want to do is build a front lip that kind of covers underneath all of here. That way any air getting trapped in here is forced to go up into the intercooler and radiator setup. So let's go and talk about this piece of aluminum we got right here. This is, I believe, 60 inches long and 16 inches wide. I got this on eBay. It was only about $35 plus like $25 for shipping, something like that. But this is the piece that I have. It is 16th inch. I believe this is 16th of an inch thick. That's what it is. You don't want anything really thicker than that because it's going to be a little bit hard to cut. You can see it's a little bit flexible, but once we cut it up to shape and when it's secured on the car, it should be fine, as long as we don't just leave the entire thing hanging by 2 bolts. So what I have next to it, I have this big old box, and that's the actual packaging that came in originally. What we're going to try to do is make a mock-up out of cardboard first. That way we can kind of make sure everything is fitting where we want it to be. And it makes it a lot easier for when we go to cut the actual aluminum, that we're not going to go back and forth, taking it on, putting it off. So hopefully we can get one of these to work. I wanted to use this one because it's just a nice big piece of solid cardboard, but as you can see, it's not quite as tall as the aluminum. It's probably about 4 inches shorter. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get it. And if worse comes to worse, this is the original, but it's got a seam, so I didn't want to use it. But let's go ahead and try. We're going to go ahead and take this, cut it up. I'm going to go ahead and cut it to length, 16 inches wide, and we'll just leave it as tall as possible. Who knows, maybe I'll unfold these sides or something, see if we can get that little extra bit of length in there. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut this up real quick, and I'll get right back with you. Alright, so I went ahead and laid the cardboard out. It was one nice big piece, and I was able to get the full length. And I just set this right on top of it, and I cut it with a knife. And right underneath we have our exact size. There is a fold to that side that we're going to have to deal with, but that is the least of our worries. So let's go ahead. Now we're going to take this aluminum piece off. We're going to go ahead and grab that guy and bring it over here. Now this is, let me go ahead and run you through the plan. So I don't know if it's certain years, but mine's an 86, and it has this piece right here, and it has a few holes right here. There's a bolt that holds it up. Let's see if we can focus on these. There you go, you can kind of see it. There's a bolt right here, there's a bolt right here, there's a bolt right here, that's 3. And then if we come on the inside over here, right there, that bolt, it goes through to the far outside over here. So that's 5 mounting spots that I'm thinking of. And we also have these out here, these Fender Stays. Mine were bent. I had to like flatten them out with a wrench, but there's a bolt out there and a bolt on the other side. So that's 7 spots that we can secure it to. So I'm thinking when we're going to cut this, we'll just cut like a strip here and bend it upwards so that we can go ahead and mount it into that. And then we'll be able to mount it on these. This is only a 16th of an inch of the aluminum, so I'm hoping that it'll be enough to still get good grip into the plastic pieces that these are going into. I definitely know this has enough thread on it, so that'll definitely be a mounting point that we want, and that'll also be the furthest spot back that we can mount it to, so that is going to determine how far forward that we can get it. I believe I'm going to have about 2 inches or so of sorry, you guys couldn't see anything. I believe we're going to have about 2 inches of lip coming out, which is really what I want. I didn't want anything too aggressive, just a little something here, just to kind of funnel it. And worst comes to worst, I've been thinking about, because this is the impact bar right above here, getting, I don't remember what they're called, they're like tension rods. Basically, they go from here to the lip. But because ours is going to be kind of small, I don't think it'll look good on ours. But we're going to go ahead and try. And if worst comes to worst, we can put like a piece of steel behind this to keep it stronger, so it doesn't get pulled down too much. Well, let's go ahead and cut out the rough shape of what we want out of that cardboard. There's going to be a few spots that we don't need. Let me go ahead and show you. If you can see, actually it's really hard for you guys to see. Right there you may be able to see this is it's the front tension rod mount up right here. You can see it's like that. Later versions are different. They look similar, but they're a bit different. Basically, that part is goes down from here, and it's going to conflict with the level that the Fender stays at. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to cut out a spot for the tow hooks as well, in case we need to get towed. We're going to go ahead and cut out a box here, go around this, and then we're going to come back behind this lip behind the radiator. Sorry guys, it is hard to see, huh? See if I can get a light up here in just a sec. We're going to go around this and then back underneath here so that we can stay behind this in case, because this is a good spot that we might be able to mount into if we needed. There's also a few holes up in here already. And then we'll go back around, of course, come back out for that and then around to that fender stay. So let me go ahead and we're going to cut up the cardboard and see if we can make this start looking like it's going to work. Alright guys, here is a very rough cut of what is going to be. So you can see I don't really have a lot of lip in the front. Maybe about, let me grab a ruler right here. This will give us about 1.5 inches of, oh you can't even see that guys, I'm sorry. It'll give us about 1.5 inches of lip. I really wanted closer to 2 or 2.5, so I'm going to see if I can extend this a little bit. This is the limitation of a 16-inch, so if you're going to get a piece of aluminum, I would recommend maybe getting like an 18-inch. That way you have a little bit of play on either side. But the limiting factor really is these fender stays in the back here. You can see when I put that up, if you can tell, it's really hard to see, but it's pretty much exactly where you would want it before it would kind of just not become a useful mounting point anymore. So what we could do is move it forward a little bit and then use an extra piece of aluminum that we're going to cut off and then rivet it together to the actual lip. That way we get a good bond between the fender stay and the lip, but we can also push it forward a little bit because you can see it's just not very aggressive. It does match up really well with the body line though. I'm impressed with this. But you can see it's going to look like that. There is a bit of an up curve here. You can see, well, it's probably actually just the front is drooping down because I believe this is supposed to stay flat. But hopefully when we put this aluminum in, it will help mitigate that a little bit. It is very common for this part here to kind of droop down. And so people like to try to find these original pieces in here because it'll help kind of stiffen it up a little bit. But like I said before, if it gets too saggy, we'll try to find like a metal rod or something and stick it in there just to kind of give it a little more strength. But basically it's looking pretty good. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to decide, just like right now, I'm just going to say, we're going to see if we can push this forward a little bit. And we're going to have to build another little piece of aluminum that goes onto the actual main lip itself. But let me go ahead and show you underneath real quick, give you an update. So you can see I cut out some pretty big holes here. It doesn't really need to be this big, but there is a lip here on the rail, and there is the piece right here, the tension rod. This actually needs to go a little bit further. It's actually wedged really nicely right now, so it does need to move a little bit. You can see the same thing on the other side. Now what we need to do is somewhere up in here, and we'll find it and we'll get some measurements, is the tow hook. See if you can. We can barely see it through there, but there's a tow hook up here. We want to be able to access that in case, of course, we break down, like a typical Z does. I'm just kidding. But we want to be able to access that. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off. We can see it right there. And we'll see if we can cut some holes for that so that we can expose it if we ever need it. Alright guys, so here is what we're at currently. So we've got a pocket cut out here for the tension rods. We've got a pocket cut out. This was where the tow hook was. I went ahead and just cut a thing right through there just to kind of make it a little fancier. Right here about is where the bottom of the radiator ends, so I have a little lip under, just past that if we need to put some bolts through something. And let me go and flip this over. I also traced the outline of the actual front lip itself, of the current one. So you can see we're pretty good on both sides even. The actual front from about here to about here is pretty flat. So I'm wondering if we should just use one of the flat edges on the aluminum and just leave it flat. I know a lot of lips typically have a curve to them, but we can go ahead and just file down any edges real nice so that we don't get too big of a problem. What I'm thinking right now is on the end here, we'll probably just kind of extend this line out and then round it off as we get up here. Just like that kind of, because right here we don't really have a lot of lip. It'd be different if we could like come out and then go into the fender, but just the way it looks, if we just had like a sliver and then it'd like stop and go back in, it'd be kind of weird. So I'm thinking we'll probably just have it come out through there and then stop on the actual front piece itself. So I think this is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and trace out the outline along the outside now that we want. And then this will be pretty darn close to being able to transfer to the aluminum. A lot of this stuff is, I want to say it's eyeballed, because really I tried measuring side to side, making sure it's symmetrical, and the problem is my car is not symmetrical. There's a couple pieces on the bottom that have bent. There's a couple pieces that are just like a little out of place. It didn't have the best life before me. I think somebody stole it and ran it through like a ditch or something. So there's a couple pieces of the frame rail that are a little bit bent. So something like this spot here, it's a little bit in on one of the sides in order to accommodate for a flattened frame rail piece, versus the other side it's a little bit straighter, so you don't need it. So this is pretty custom, so it will kind of only go on one way. Currently this is how it sits on the car, so this is the top, and you can see underneath where I'd done a few markings and stuff, that's how it sits. So this will be a kind of a one-directional piece when we're done with it. But I think it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and trace this out, cut it up, and then we'll go ahead and see if we can put it on the aluminum. And fingers crossed that we don't mess that up and completely ruin our lip. But let's go ahead and try it out. Alright, I wanted to include you guys a little bit on the process. So I went ahead and marked my center line as I marked it on the board when I started doing the drawings. And then I went 15 inches out, and that's kind of where the bumper kind of starts to tilt about here. I went a little bit further, that's 15 inches from the center line, and then I went down. I measured, took a ruler, tried to make it about perpendicular, and went about 2 1/4 inch, a little bit less than on both sides. Marked a mark there, and then connected the two lines together. And then from here to here is about 12 inches. This side is 12 inches. Over on this side it was a little bit different. This was 12 inches, but it was way too far out, if you can see that. So I went ahead and I just kind of made a few marks. I liked this one the most, so I did that, and I did that there. So this is actually going to be a curve. This is kind of just a guiding line, but I'm probably going to just curve it just kind of out a little bit. That way it looks a little bit nicer instead of just a jagged edge. But I wanted to kind of just give you guys a little bit of the idea of how I did this. I was trying to make this as symmetric as possible because this is what people will see. Whether it comes out symmetric or not, we'll see. But I'm sure it'll look good unless you're really looking too close. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to make an arch for these, try to make it look good. And then fingers crossed, we'll go ahead and cut it and see how it looks. Alright guys, here is the final cutout. It is looking pretty good. I've went ahead and set it up on a bench right here. We've got a nice big area to work with. I put a 2x4. This is a lead weight to kind of keep the cardboard flat. You can see it's kind of coming up right here. So when I get to this section, I am going to put something on here to kind of hold it down. Maybe I'll move one of these weights. But basically, these are just to kind of keep it nice and flat. You can see this is a corner. That's a stock corner. This front edge is a flat edge. And then this corner as well. So those are all lined up perfectly to where they need to be. We're gonna go ahead and grab our Sharpie. We're gonna go ahead and trace all of this out so that we get a nice picture. And I've looked in order to attach to the bumper, that plastic piece on the inside, I'm gonna just make an L bracket and probably rivet it in right about here. I could like cut a weird thing out and bend it up, but that would be too much of a pain. So I'm gonna go ahead and just try to rivet in an L bracket right here, as well as one on the side whenever we get to that stage. But it is looking pretty good right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and trace it, and then hopefully we'll be able to cut it out of this aluminum fairly easy. Alright guys, now that we've got this all traced out, what we're going to go ahead and do is try to cut it out with a skill saw, or sorry, a jigsaw. So we've got a pretty thin blade on here, if you can see that. So hopefully we'll be able to make these kind of tight corners a little bit easier. I'm going to have to round them. You just can't really cut unless I did cut. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of round these guys off so I can just do one big cut through the entire thing. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is take just the 2x4s here and put them on top, and then I've got some clamps. I'm going to go ahead and clamp them to the table. Obviously I'm going to slide this off. Sorry, I should have specified that. And then put the 2x4 across here, and then I'm going to clamp it to the table. That way it holds this down so we'll be able to cut along the edge here, so we can't cut into the table. We're going to be able to cut on the edge, but it'll be strong enough to not bend and just jiggle. At least that's the idea. So let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. I'll set up the time lapse. You guys can kind of see me fail. That'll be fun. So yeah, let's go ahead. I'm thinking maybe I'll probably actually start on the back side here, where nobody's going to be able to see me, and kind of just get a feel of how it's going. And then once that's done, I'll flip around to the front and do these final edges, which need to be nice and shiny and curvy, and we'll see if we can get them. So let's go ahead and see if I can set this up correctly to do that. Alright, so you can see I went ahead and made this first cut, and it came out pretty well. One thing is the saw actually started kind of scuffing up the aluminum. So I tried, you may have seen in the time lapse, I put duct tape on the bottom in order to kind of keep it from hitting, but the metal shavings actually got into the duct tape, and then it kind of still scratched it. You can see along there, there's a lot of duct tape, or there's a lot of shavings in there, scratches. So it went okay. That's why I actually am glad I started on the back here, so I kind of get a hang of it. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of it off camera, just because I'm running out of battery on it, and I don't want to miss filming the end for you guys. But I was always planning on painting this. I'll say it right there. I was always planning on making this black. I wanted to make it. I wanted just to leave it aluminum for the time being. But seeing all these terrible scrapes, I'll probably just paint it black in the end. I think I've got some stuff. I'm going to, I think, experiment with a removable, like rubberized coating, because it should help with rock chips and everything a little bit better, since it'll be able to absorb the impact. We'll see how it goes though. I'll show you guys the finished product at the end of this video here, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut the rest of this up. It's gonna be interesting, but hopefully we'll be able to get it good, and you guys should see it now. Alright guys, well, if you can't tell, I got this completely cut out. It didn't go too badly. You can see this is the first side. You can see this terrible corner right here. I really upgraded the second side, really got these corners a lot better than what they were. You can see there's the original one. It's not looking too bad. Now there are a couple things that I haven't done with it yet. I haven't test fit, so something like this, it's kind of like an S, it bulges back out and then goes back in. I might need to trim that down a little bit more because this one is square. So I might need to trim that, so that one might not fit. But it is looking pretty good. I went ahead and used a file to kind of break down all of these edges so that they weren't rough, so I don't accidentally cut myself when I'm putting it in. But it's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's go ahead and take this. We're gonna put it in the car and see how it looks. I'll go ahead and trim up anything that I need to, and then we'll start trying to find how to attach it. So you remember on here we have where the lip is. So I might actually just take this cardboard one again and mark where holes are, and then use the template to cut through holes in the actual one. But there we go. Let's go ahead and see how this goes. Alright guys, we made some pretty good progress. I went ahead and fitted this to the car. It looks really good. And then what I went ahead and did is I put holes for these 3 holes in the front here. This is from the edge to here is 10 inches. Of course that depends on where this edge is for you. So for me it was 10 inches. And then these are each 8 and a little over a 1/4 inch apart. And you can see, you might be able to see. I slotted these outside ones, so you got a hole, and then I slotted these, and it just gives you a little bit of adjustability. But this one, it is centered. I went ahead and marked it in the center, because if you remember, this is a stock edge, and this is a stock edge, so I measured 60 inches across, 30 inches right in the middle, and then I used a square to get right up to there. So that is dead center, so this will keep it symmetrical for what it is. Then I went ahead and slotted those guys. Next that I wanted to do is go ahead and attach to those rear parts of the bumper with these little uprights. So I went ahead and cut 5-inch long piece of aluminum for each side. I went ahead and bent 1 inch at the bottom here. And now I went ahead and put this to the car. I went ahead and put these 3 in, and then I had a jack up on this side holding this side up, and I used my hand on this side to hold this side up, just so it was flush where it would be. And then I attached these to the bumper and then put tape over where it touched. You can see I also slotted these holes just for a little bit of adjustability on there. So we've got these taped exactly where they need to be now. Now what you could do is you could use a nut and a bolt if you wanted to be able to get it off just from the bottom. Something like a welded nut onto the top here, they would stay, and then you just put 1 bolt through the bottom would be really nice. But I'm going to use some rivets. Just because it's going to be a little bit easier. And I have this access here. This is where the tow hook goes, and you can just reach up and just undo the bolt that goes to this pretty easily. So I'm not too worried about that. It just does mean that this piece is never going to be flat. It is going to always have these 2 guys sticking up. But I'm going to go ahead and put 2 rivets on each side, kind of at a diagonal, just to keep it from pivoting. It really wouldn't be a big problem if it pivoted. You know, maybe I'll just put 1 in. Just hold it just like that, 1 and 1. I believe it shouldn't pivot too much with rivets in. They really do hold pretty well. I don't know, maybe it should do 2. Alright guys, I made the decision. I'm just going to do 1 rivet in each, just to right in the center. So it is taped on here, so we can just leave the tape on, and we're just going to get a drill bit that matches the size of the rivet, and we're just going to put a hole right through, and we're going to leave the tape on, and we're going to rivet from underneath. Okay, so when you rivet, you go up from the bottom, and this long stem will break off, and so it'll be a flush surface underneath. So you'll see the rivet part on top, but it'll be nice and flush underneath, which is what we want, because we don't want too much stuff protruding from the bottom to get caught if we accidentally scrape on anything. So I'm going to go ahead and cut holes in both of these with the drill bit, and then we'll go ahead and rivet them in. Alright guys, we got them riveted in. They look pretty good. So the back sides of these brackets, they don't look very professional, right? But nobody's going to see these parts. All they're going to see are maybe the outside. So you can see right there, that rivet looks pretty good. It's very clean, nice and flush with it. So I'm really happy with the way that this rivets. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is take this, put it back in the car, and the last thing we may have to do are come up with the little brackets that are going to be out here on the fenders. So if you remember, I made the decision to push it forward a little bit, which means the bolt holes are about right here. So they're a little bit off. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and get some more of our scrap aluminum and make some more brackets just like these, but they're just going to be tiny little extensions that go about right here. We'll go and put a rivet in there and then drill a hole here, so there's a bolt hole. But what we want to go ahead and do is put this in the car first so we can measure exactly how long we need. I'll probably end up doing a little bit of slotting just like that one, just to kind of give us a little bit of adjustability. But we do want these to be kind of good mounts because these are all up along the front, and so right now it's a little bit back heavy. So we want these to really be able to hold it in case it gets too bad. And we're probably going to try to do something along here. There isn't much on the car right now. It's just the radiator support at the bottom. So we'll try to see, maybe we'll get some like self-tapping screws or something. What would be really good, and we might just have to wait until the next time, and I'll probably do like an update when I do that, is some Nutserts, I believe they're called. They're kind of like rivets in the sense that you put them into the frame and then you squeeze it like a rivet and it'll snap it off in, but it's got threads on the inside of it. So instead of these, you can actually thread a bolt in. So right here, you can put Nutserts into the frame, and then you'll actually put bolts through. So that might actually just be what we do at the end, just because they're a little bit more secure. I think that metal's a little bit thin for self-tapping. But let's go ahead, put this back in the car, and see if we can make up these little brackets on the end. Alright guys, quick update. I went ahead and fit this to the car, and I noticed that there was a pretty big gap up here in the front corners, just from the way the lip kind of bows down on the car itself. So it kind of made a big gap here. So if this wasn't connected, then the only other support would be this guy right here and that guy right there. So it would kind of skate down a little bit. So what I went ahead and did is I made some more of these little L brackets. These ones, if you can tell, they're at slight angles, and they hold on to, I don't remember what they're called. They're but they hold the bumper to the fender. There's 3 bolts, 1 and then 2 and 3, and so this one goes onto the bottom bolt. It is nice because this one's a stud. The rest of these are screws, and so you can't really set it to hang on anything, but we'll be able to hang it by these and then put these screws in. So it'll be a little bit nicer actually the way that we have it set up now. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and make these brackets now. Alright guys, well this thing is looking absolutely great. I got these tabs, went ahead and riveted them in. I put 2 on these because we don't really want these to pivot all that much. It's going to be nice and strong as well. Everything here is just looking so good. I've already got the holes in these and I'm ready for the final mount. I'm super excited for this. If you guys were wondering, these were 3-inch long by 1-inch wide. I just kind of put that hole right in the middle, which is where it's at on the fender. So let's go ahead and mount this for one last time. Alright guys, I got it on, and I have to say I absolutely love it. It's not too crazy, it's just a little bit there. Remember, I did say I was going to paint this black, and I will still do that. I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys this final version, not bore you with too many words, because I do love to talk. I did, the entire time I was doing this, right, I was making sure that everything was lining up. You can see this side lines up really good. You can see a little bit right there. I might trim back, but I completely forgot to look at this side. And if you can see, there's a pretty big lip the entire way around. So I'm probably going to go back and refinish this entire edge here. I've already got the holes all drilled and everything, so all I really need to do is just trim that and then fade this back in again, and it'll be fine. You can see right here it lines up with that kind of point. Right here it lines up with that kind of point. So all it needs to be is just trimmed down like a little, like maybe a 1/4 of an inch along here, and it'll be fine. But I'm absolutely thrilled with the way this came out, and it is very, very secure. It takes a lot of bolts to get it on and off, which is a little bit of a pain, but it's better than not enough mounting points. So I'm super happy with it, guys. If you have any questions about what I did in here, go ahead and drop a comment down below, and I hope that this helped you guys, and give it a thumbs up if you think it's super sick like I do, and I will see you guys later.